All right. This is what we had to do with Facebook the last time. Okay, we're on YouTube now.
Yeah.
But now that link is like not useful.
This is what we had to do with Facebook the last time.
Okay. Is there a live stream on there?
Yeah, I see it.
You see it now?
I see it.
Okay. Jared, can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Hey guys, welcome to Film in Color's second film industry happy hour.
This is what we had to do with Facebook the last time.
Oh my goodness, that's me. A special thank you to the Pratt Film Department and Eliza Hitman for helping us out with this and putting this event together. We're really excited to introduce tonight's guest filmmaker, Nia DaCosta. She's directed the 2018 film Little Woods, along with the upcoming film Candyman, and she's also on board to direct Captain Marvel 2. We are very happy and grateful to have Nia here to talk with us and answer our questions. Thank you for everyone joining on YouTube Live. If you have any questions that you would like to ask, please leave them in the chat and we will be answering those questions towards the end of tonight's event. Nia, we are really excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming. And to get us started off, can you just give us some background information about you and how you got to where you are in the industry today?
I'm born and bred New Yorker, raised here, raised mostly in Harlem, went to boarding school for a while. Then I went to NYU and got my degree in film undergrad. And then I went abroad for a year to get my master's in London. And that was in writing for stage and broadcast media was the course. And then I came back and I worked in reality for a while, which was terrible. And then, I mean, basically it was like applying for like literally everything I could apply for. Cause as a writer and a director, it's like, you kind of just have to do that. Like there's really, you just don't know which is going to be your door, into the industry. So that was pretty much as soon as you finish film school, it's like, okay, like submit to that, submit to this, final draft contest, Sundance Labs, all that stuff. And so that's what I did while I was, also working in reality, trying to get into scripted so I could like be more in the world that I wanted to be in. And then when I was my first year PAing in scripted television, I applied for the Sundance Labs. And at the end of that year, I got in. And then the year after that, I did like the Screenwriters Lab, Directors Lab, Producing Summit, both those things. That's how I met Eliza Hitman. It was amazing. And yeah, that's really like getting into the Sundance Labs was like a huge turning point for me because they were so dedicated to like once you're in the labs, they're really dedicated to helping you get the film made. And over the next couple of years, they're really helpful in whether it was like grants or more labs and programs or literally having like this thing called the, what is it called? I can't remember actually, but you basically go to the Sundance Resort and you like pitch to a bunch of people for money. And that's how I got half of the budget for my film. And then I got the other half through CAA, my agency. And then I made my first movie. So that's long and short of it, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So we're just going to get started off with some questions from our inside closed off audience. Yajara, do you want to start it off?
Yeah, I want to know about this reality stuff you were doing, working in reality. Like, can you tell us some more information about that and why you didn't like it?
Oh, sure, yeah. When I finished my master's program, I was planning on staying in London and like, being a poor playwright and just like, working in a cafe and being like a European artist, whatever. But then I couldn't because of the Tories, but that's another story. So I went back to the States and I went back because I got a job as a PA on like a clip show for History Channel. Like basically like, I don't know if you guys were aware for this, like I love the 90s. I love the, yeah, it might be a little before your time, but on VH1. It's a clip show, and this was like I love the 1880s, so it was like historical facts and comedians like talking about it. And I just didn't care about it, so I didn't like it. The people I worked with were cool, which really makes all that stuff so much easier. And then I kind of followed them for the other jobs. So I went on to do the first season of Kesha, My Crazy Beautiful Life for MTV. And on that job, I went up from PA to associate producer, and then did some more associate producing on like bad pilots for shitty MTV like shows. And I'm just like, this is not great. And this is around the time that like Viacom like fired like so many people from MTV and VH1. So it's just like, what is going on? But anyway, the whole time I kept trying to get into scripted. So what I did one day actually was I went to IMDb and I looked at every single show that shot in New York. And I looked at all the PAs and I was like, there must be someone I know. There must be someone I went to school with here. And I looked at all the PAs and then I found someone that I went to school with and I was like, oh shit, let me find her on Facebook. Went to Facebook, messaged her and I was like, hey, like trying to get it scripted. Like, do you know anyone? And I think like she was like, oh, I'll let you know. And like a month later, she's like, hey, someone's looking for like a weekender, like someone just do 2 days on the Nick. And I was like, great, I'll do it. So I did that. It was really great. And then I went back to my like reality job and I started doing like APing on some TLC show. And I was like, this is trash. But it was just really because no one wants to be doing it. Like no one in there really wanted to be doing it, except for like maybe like the highest level like execs who really like cared about people in the story. Everyone's kind of like, well, I went to film school and now I'm doing this. And so like the energy wasn't the best. But like a month into that job, I got a call from the people I did the weekend for on the Nick to do Vinyl, the pilot of Vinyl, which was an HBO show, short-lived. And that's how I got my start in scripted, which is by trolling IMDb, basically. So yeah, and it was a lot better because I got to actually get like up close and personal with the kind of world I wanted to be in. Like, even though I was trying to make my first film, being in like an unscripted HBO show was like really great. It was like seeing what everyone was doing. And then I went back to the Nick, and then I went on to a Steve McQueen pilot for HBO that didn't end up getting picked up. And that was around when I got into the Sundance Labs.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so what's happening right now is that some more people are actually joining the Zoom call. So everybody who is entering the Zoom call can we just make sure that we have the cameras off and we're muted. And if you have any outstanding questions, you can put that in the chat also. Okay, with that being said, Alana, would you like to go with our next question?
Yes. Hi, I'm Alana. I'm a sophomore film major. And I wanted to know, just like so far in your career, what has been like the hardest thing about directing?
I think the hardest thing about directing are all the things that have nothing to do with the movie or making a good movie, like dealing with, and it's such a cliche, but like dealing with like, it's not even really dealing with execs, but it's just like dealing with the issues that have nothing to do with like making the movie good. Like, you know, oh, we want this movie to make money. Like, how can we make this like more appealing to more people? It's like, that's not like a good way to make a movie. So that can be really difficult, especially I think if you're not like already prepared to make a movie like that, you know, like some movies are, you just think about them that way and it's fine. And I love a lot of movies that are like that. They're just like fun. Like, you know, I go see every Fast and Furious movie in theaters, but like, and they know what movie that is, but the movies I was making were not for that. So that to me has always been the hardest thing, when you have to kind of like figure out how to still make a movie that feels like you and that is like through your vision and carried by your instinct, but that also satisfies all these tertiary things that aren't actually important.
Thank you.
Milo, would you like to go with the next question?
Sure. Hi, my name is Milo. I'm a senior. I'm a cinematographer, director, Marvel like fanatic.
I'm Marvel trash too, so I understand.
So my question is, being from New York yourself, how does where you come from influence how and what you make as a screenwriter and as a director, especially as being a woman of color?
I think being from here and also going to NYU, which like is not a perfect school by any stretch of the imagination, but I think going to a New York film school, like everyone watches this one movie, I can't remember what it's called, but like basically it's like LA filmmaking was like this, and it was the money, and like the musicals, and New York filmmaking was gritty, you know? And so like, I think definitely I was like in a school where the idea was like, you're really making real art, real film, blah, blah, blah. Which is obnoxious, but can also be helpful when you have to just like defend your vision, and to not get sidetracked by like the mechanics of the movie business so much, which are really good to know. But like, I think definitely being a New York filmmaker, you just we're slightly separated from that. So it's nice to have that kind of clarity. Because like every time I'm in LA, I just feel like way too available. I feel like it's just so like, hey, I'm meeting. It's like, I don't want to talk to anyone right now, like that I don't know, like, thank you, but no. And I think you can get into a space sometimes in LA where you're just meeting people and it's like, why? And then being a woman of color, yeah, it definitely influences my work in that, you know, I often want to make movies about women of color, or about that in some way reflect my experience as a woman of color, whether that's like, you know, like in Little Woods, like I'm not from North Dakota, but I can definitely identify with the main character who's like the only Black woman in like a very white environment, which was like my first 2 years of boarding school in Connecticut, you know? So like there are certain things that I bring from my experience and put into film. And then with like Candyman, you know, he's an artist trying to figure out how to make art in a very white industry. And that's what I'm doing, and that we'll all be doing. And it's like just the way of the world. So I think those sorts of things really influence like the way I talk about things and the things I do end up sort of making movies about.
Thank you.
Anahita, you're next on my list.
Hello, I'm Anahita. I'm a junior. I'm mostly interested in directing at this point. And I'm wondering, this is something I've been grappling a lot with recently, like as a woman of color in sort of these like male dominated spaces, which I think the industry still is very much full of. Like, how do you sort of navigate the pressure of having to prove yourself like every chance you get in terms of, you know, like as a director?
Yeah. You know, having been through it now, like I guess what I've done 2 movies and I did TV, like honestly, like it's not real. Like it's real and it's annoying and they're the worst. But I mean, in terms of like, they need you, like if they've chosen you to direct something, they need you more than you need them, is how I've basically come to feel about these things. And it is really, the biggest thing you have to think about actually is less like how do you prove yourself and more like how do you protect yourself and your spirit and like your mental health. And because it's not easy having to deal with that when you're also trying to make a movie and be vulnerable in that space and be like a leader for your cast and crew. I think that's really where I've been, you know, rearranging the focus as someone who like definitely had a chip on my shoulder and probably still does, about being a woman of color, a young woman, especially being a young woman. People talk to you so crazy. Like I've had instances where I'm just like, what do you talk? Like, what are you saying? And that also, you know, the way I deal with those things is kind of how I've dealt with them outside of work anyway. So that's kind of the path I found through it. But oh my gosh, honestly, it's the worst. But I think every movie, everything I do, it's like I get better at like choosing the right people. I get better at navigating that. I also get better at like, creating boundaries very early on, like specific to myself. You know, like when I get a condescending email from someone, so a new person, it's like, okay, let's address this now, because we're not going to do that. You know, this is just, and that's just my personality or how it's developed through having to go through these other experiences. You're going to be gaslighted a lot, like directing is really lonely sometimes, which I didn't really understand until I just did my last movie. But I think the biggest thing is like boundaries and like protecting your like sense of self, because that's how you're gonna have the space to make good work.
Thank you.
No, of course.
Yesenia, you are next.
Hi, I'm Yesenia. I'm a senior in film. I'm mostly into editing, post-production, a little bit of pre-production as well. My question for you is, I'm not sure how many pitches you've had to do, but how do you adapt the way you pitch your screenplays according to the company or the person and individual you're trying to convince to produce or finance your movie?
Oh man, this sort of dovetails actually into Anahita. Is that your name? Anahita's question. Is that I don't actually adapt them anymore. Like on my first film, I was definitely like, oh, let's try to make it like, fit for this person, this person, this person. But what I realized is I actually only want to work with the person who gets it the way I want to do it. Because that's, again, like, at least for me, the only way that I'm going to be able to make a good movie. A movie that feels like me, because it's so easy to get lost in trying to please a bunch of people that you lose your sense of your own artistic vision. And that's happened to me. And it's so hard to kind of find your way back. And it's like really demoralizing. And like, especially in post, I would say, was when I think all directors completely lose all sense of self and they lose their minds. It's really important to be surrounded by as many people as possible who get it and want you to make the movie that you wanted to make. And whose notes are really just about like helping you try to get there. A rule I have for myself about pitching, actually, and I haven't pitched a script. Well, no. So when I pitch a script, it's usually me being like, hey, here's my movie, pew pew. Like it's this happens, and it's kind of like this genre. And if they want it, cool. If they don't, then it's like, but it's very different for me. The stakes are different. So I understand that my answer might not be as helpful when you're like starting out. But I think almost especially when you're starting out, it's really important to find the right company, because it can be like, it can just really stop you in your tracks, I think, in terms of wanting to do this if the first experience is awful. So I would say like it's really important to just be true to the movie you want to make, because the people who are right for it will be the ones who say yes with the pitch, which is your vision, your way of working. But when it comes to directing something, like if a script comes in, my rule for myself is if I can't see it, I just won't pitch on it. Like if I'm like, oh, I don't know how I would do this, like I just don't do it. Or if I'm not excited by it, I don't pitch it, because the worst is then to get like offered a film and you're like, oh, actually, sorry, that's so rude. That's not the worst. That's a great thing. It's really, really great. But like you want to be able to do something your way. So I think you just have to let it be, come from the heart, from your heart, like your vision, your mind. Like I was talking to Karan Kusama recently, and she was saying like, she put it like, whose dream is it? And if you're the director, it's your dream. And you have to be around people who like respect that. So that's my answer.
Thank you so much.
No, of course.
Zachary, you're next to ask me a question.
Hello, I'm Zachria. I'm a junior in film, and I mostly write and direct. This is Erica. She's my friend and roommate. She's an interior designer.
Amazing. Hi.
But, my
what color should I do for my kitchen? I'm just kidding. No, do your question.
Well, my question's less personal than these last ones, I suppose. But Candyman was always one of my favorite movies as a small child. So I was really excited to hear that it was rebooted. I'm usually not excited.
I understand.
And so then when I saw that it was you who was directing the reboot, I was even more excited, because it seemed a lot more like it could come from a personal angle. So I was
thank you.
It's like any sort of, I don't know, hidden secret or anything that you want to share with us about the film or about your take on the film?
If this were in person, I totally would. But since it's streaming on the interwebs, what can I say about the film? Yeah, it's definitely really personal in ways, like I was saying before, like, you know, being an artist, trying to like self-expression and trying to navigate like an industry that's so much bigger than him. Definitely identify with that. I will say we have some really fun, I think, nods to original characters from the original film, all of whom I will not name or mention, but I'm sure you can guess all the ones I'm talking about.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Bailey.
Hi, I'm Bailey. I'm a
Hey,
freshman.
Bailey.
I have two questions. So, what are some films that inspired you and inspired your work as a director? And what was the moment that really made you want to become a director and get into film?
Okay, that's cool. So those I can kind of answer them at the same time. So so when I was like 11, I watched American Beauty, and I was like, I don't understand what's happening, but this is really cool and interesting, and I kept like watching it. I also had HBO like at a very young age, so I would just watch movies all the time that I should not have been watching. Like Full Metal Jacket was one that I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like I don't get it, but cool. And so I think that experience, I was like, interesting. This film thing seems really like there's a lot of stuff going on here. And then Eve's Bayou actually was another one that I was like, this is crazy as a kid. And then when I got to high school, and I was like, okay, I definitely want to be do something in film, and I'm not really sure what. I got really into like Coppola. I watched Apocalypse Now, and I was like, and The Godfather, and I was just like, oh, like this is like a movie. This is a movie. Like you can do anything in film, and which is how, especially Apocalypse Now, made me feel. Then I watched like Dog Day Afternoon, and I watched like a bunch of Lumet and Pacula, and it was just like, oh, everyone is doing so much crazy shit in the 70s. This is amazing. And it was really inspiring, like what the directors were putting on screen, how they shot it, the madness through which they were able to make these really amazing films. So that really made me think, oh, okay, I think directing is what I want to do. I think that's the person or persons who like, you know, steer the ship. It's the person whose dream it is. So that's I think that would be the moment, you know, early on, and then the sort of solidifying it was in those films that really inspired me and what my work looks like, I would say.
Okay, cool. Maribel. Oh, you need it.
Hi, my name is Maribel. I'm a junior, and my pronouns are she, her. And I guess something I'm really curious about is like, at what point in your life did you know filmmaking was for you? And also, like, what keeps you going and what keeps you pushing for more quickly?
I think what keeps me going is that I haven't done everything I want to do yet, you know? And even when it's like really hard, it's just like, okay, this will help you get to the next thing. And yeah, and there's so many more types of movies I want to make, so many stories I want to tell. And I'm just like a fan of film. So it's really great to still be a part of that community, and to be able to add to like the film, you know, the plethora of films that are being made. And so that's really like rewarding for me still. You know, I'm really not that far into my career. So it's like, I haven't quite gotten tired of it yet. Although I was listening to the Deakins podcast, Team Deakins, and he was talking to Joel Cohen, and he asked him basically like, how does he keep his passion for filmmaking? And he was like, yeah, I think about that all the time. And then he said like, I just am a filmmaker. The passion comes and goes, but like, that's just what I do. I just make movies. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, it's just like, it's just what you do. So I think about that, actually. I've been thinking about that a lot this summer. And then same thing, like I knew I wanted to be in film like around 11 or 12. I didn't know how, but that's when it happened for me.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So That's our first round of questions from our group. So, what we are going to start, we're going to go through one more round with just our group questions. And then after that, we're going to open it up to the public group. And we're just going to do that by doing a little emoji hand raise. I think that's the best way that we're going to do that. Hopefully, with answering public's questions. But as a senior, this is my question, I guess. As a senior in college, did you have to like make a thesis film?
I didn't. I've never edited it.
You never edited it?
In fact, my last semester of NYU, I didn't even do film. I went to Spain and studied Spanish because I hated film school so much. And I was like, I'm not going to be a filmmaker if I stay in this awful place. So I studied abroad. So I honestly, like, I think everyone's like, oh, I'm going to make like the great next American film. And then I'm going to get into festivals. And then that's how my career is going to start, which happens for one person in your year. But there's so many other ways, you know, and it's very useful to have your short film for sure. But I think like, don't put so much pressure on it. Cause like, I literally can't think of anyone in my year who did a short. A lot of them, their shorts went to festivals for sure, but I usually think like the grad program people are the ones who really make the shorts that like travel. But yeah, I would say just make it. Like, what are you even asking me? Sorry, I'm just like giving you advice for no reason.
No. Yeah,
sorry. The answer is no, I did
like,
not make one.
No. Yeah. I wanted to know if you made one, but like, I just want to now, like, you have me intrigued. Like, what happened to make you like almost hate film and like now want to edit it?
Oh, NYU people are just crazy. They're insane. They're just, it's just so intense. Like everyone's really competitive and it's just like, who cares? And I was doing a full course load, my thesis film, I had a job, I had 2 internships. That's like overachieving poor person, basically, at an expensive institution. So, and I was like, oh, this is terrible. So I was like, let me stop and take a break, take a breath, and, you know, just do not this. So, and also at NYU, like you get a scholarship if you went abroad. So it ended up like pricing out the same, living abroad and being in New York. So I was like, well, there I go. And it was really the best thing I did because I probably wouldn't have kept doing film. It was just like, didn't feel very good. So yeah, like, I don't know. I honestly, I'd made shorts before my first film, but I never showed them to anyone. So at least not to anyone who like gave me money for my movie. I would say shorts are important though, and for you, and they are important because you can like, you know, so many filmmakers obviously have gone through that path. That's like a huge path for people, and it just wasn't my path. Like the only festival I've ever been to is, well, it's not true. Actually, no, that is true. The only festival I've been to with the film is Rebecca, and that's the film that I screened my feature at. I never did the festival tour, you know, with shorts and all that stuff. But shorts for me were really useful because I got to like hone my craft. Like directing is like, you have to just kind of do it. And you know, and then you make a feature and you're like, okay, I guess I get it. So they're important, but I also think you shouldn't put too much pressure on yourself. Like they shouldn't be about like the result. They should be about the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
That really makes me feel better about my thesis.
Great. Please finish it though. You know, I just was like, what is this? And the reason why I didn't do it was because I shot the whole thing. It was like, I was like, so like, oh, I don't like the way this turned out. Like I'm not, so I was just like hard for me to edit it, but it's like, you should just do the thing. It's, you know, again, the process. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yajara. Oh, do you have a question?
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about how you did your Kickstarter? Like how do you fund your films? Like using Kickstarter?
Oh, so this is very strange. It's on the internet. It says that I funded Littlewoods, like the feature with Kickstarter. None of the money came from Kickstarter. I funded a short on Kickstarter, again, that no one ever saw. So like many Kickstarters, no one got any of their awards. And Kickstarter really like, I have friends who've done it a lot more successfully than I have. I've only done it once for the short. and I found that's really about, no, I won't generalize Kickstarter. I will say I just don't have the best advice about it because I did it once and it wasn't that much money. It was only like about $4,000. Like 2,000 of which I think a family friend gave me. Like, you know, so, and I haven't even donated to Kickstarter in a very long time. So I don't really know what is in 2020, but.
I have another question.
Yeah, please.
So when you were at NYU, how was like, well, I know you said you didn't really like it, but did you have any like friends in film that you
like
helped each other and things like that? Was it that type of culture or was it more like everybody on their own trying to do their own thing?
I actually really enjoyed NYU. Just my last semester was just like hot trash, or my semester before my last semester. No, I had a really great time at NYU because I had really great teachers. Culturally, NYU, I don't know what's going on now, but I went there because you could shoot on film, and those films that you made shooting on like black and white, what was it? 60mm reversal, I think. You have to make with your friends. So like someone has to shoot it, someone, you know, they act in it, or like your classmates, I should say. So that was great. And everyone always like helps on other people's short films. Like, you know, people are always making things. You could always get like, you can really cut your teeth in like any department on a film just through like the people who are doing shorts. The big like flaw, I think, in the NYU system at the time was like, you did not at all interact with the acting course or the dramatic writing course, which feels crazy because we're like, not everyone's going to be a writer, director, actor, like, you know, person, nor should you feel like you have to be. And I think sometimes film school, at least in the NYU model, like can make you feel like you have to be a writer director, like, you know, you have to be Jim Jarmusch or Spike Lee. And really that's like not realistic for, I would say, most filmmakers. So if you're a director, like do not feel like you have to write. If it's taking you like 5 years to write one script, maybe you're not a writer, which is not a big deal, you know. Then that said, I have friends who are amazing writers who take that long to write one script. But in terms of like starting your career, like I think it's fine to be a director who like has a friend who's a writer and like make that work. I think finding a producer is really important, which was also another cool thing about the NYU, like, you know, dynamic. You have like the producers, the writers, the directors. And by senior year, people start to realize that they're not all going to direct and start to like find love in like other things like producing and editing. So that was really great. I think I would say that at NYU.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yesenia, I know you said you had a question.
I do have another question. So I kind of wanted to know if you could talk to us about like your relationship that you have between yourself as a director and like the editor or like the editing team. Like what does it look like? Some of the challenges or like whatever parts of it.
Oh man, I'm only laughing because like my editor is like one of my best friends. Like I'm actually about to go to her house after this and watch The Bachelorette. So, and when we were doing Top Boy, we lived together, edited together, and like yeah, and like would watch movies on the weekends together. So it's a unique situation, I would say, in that sense. But what was the reason why she's my editor still and has been on everything I've done since the short I like funded through Kickstarter is, well, it's actually one day I got a job to edit something and then I didn't feel like it. So I was like, can you do this and make it feel like this? And she's like, okay. And then she sent it to me like hours later. She's like, there you go. And that's exactly what I asked for. And I was like, perfect. And that's just how it started. Cause I was like, oh, you're like, you get what I'm saying and we can communicate. And so that to me is like the biggest thing of our collaboration is that like, we can communicate with each other and understand each other. And then the moments that we don't understand each other, it can beget something really interesting that neither of us was thinking of. So I think that's really, really fun. More specifically though, usually what happens is after I finish shooting, like she's editing while we shoot. And then after I finish shooting, I'll like take like 2 weeks away so I can pretend I didn't shoot a movie and come in and be like, whoa, what's this footage, you know? And then she will just do an assembly. You know, there'll be storyboards sometimes. Sometimes I'll like send her notes from set, like edit it like this. It never is what I say. And then she like figures it out. And then in the beginning of the edit, I only do like maybe half days where I come in, watch it down, give notes, leave. Like some days I don't even come in because in case she's doing a big overhaul. And then after like a month or so of that, I'm in there like all the time, just annoying her. just like getting it, you know, to where I want it to be. But yeah, does that answer your question? Okay, cool.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Does anybody else from Film and Color have any questions? Milo?
Yeah, I have a question. Because your two upcoming movies are like both like amazing genres, like superhero and black horror, and they're both really interesting. And I wonder what makes a good movie to you. And I know that's a subjective question, but
oh yeah. I think a good movie is because I like all sorts of films, and I think for me it's just like a movie that really has a clear, it sets out to do something, it's very specific, and it does that thing. So, you know, like it's not kind of like when I think about Eliza's movies, which are so like just to me like perfect because it feels like she sets out to do something and then she does it like to a T so well. And it's like, oh, that's a fucking movie. You know, that feels as like muscular and intense as like Dunkirk, you know what I mean? Which like, to be honest though, I think he sets out to do a thing and sometimes I'm like, did you do it, boo-boo? But like that to me is also interesting as a film. I wouldn't say like for me, like great, but like, I love when a filmmaker is like, I really set out to do a thing and I've done it. So like another example of that to me, like exactly like so different from Eliza's movies is like The Fifth Element, which I think is great because it's literally just like vibrating at this frequency that is insane. And it's just that for the entire film. And you're like, oh yeah, like this is what the movie is. And it's committed to that and it's dedicated to it and it did it the whole time. And that's why it's successful. Like that Chris Rock performance is so amazing. And I think that I really admire that. And then I admire movies like, I don't know, like since you're into Marvel, in the Marvel verse, like Iron Man 3, I thought was really wonderful. Because it's like a superhero movie about like PTSD and anxiety, you know, and I thought that was really cool. It's just, I think movies that really are specific about what they're trying to do, specific about character, and then execute.
Thank you.
Anybody else from Film and Color have any questions before we open it up to the public audience? Alana.
So earlier you had said that you like your drive is that you haven't made everything that you want to make yet. So what kind of stories, like as specific or general as you want to get, like what kind of stories do you still want to make?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. What am I working on right now? So I really like a theater. So I want to do actual theater. I want to direct a play or write a play, but a couple of adaptations I want to do, like of an Ibsen play, a couple of Shakespeare plays. I like doing that. I think that's really fun. I like specific kind of genre of film, just like play adaptations, I think are really fun. I really want to do a huge like historical drama about like ancient Rome, because I love ancient Rome and I love ancient Greece and like Greek mythology, and I like that would be really great to do and really awesome. I want to do like a K-drama one day, because I'm like, when I was like a teenager, I was like super into K-dramas. Like, and then during the pandemic, I started watching them again because I had nothing else to do. And I was like, oh, actually, I mean, I was working, but whatever. And so that, like, you know, that I think that could be really fun. I'd love to do a James Bond movie, you know? And then I want to make weird, really small, specific, like character-driven, you know, it's just like there's so many different ways. I think at the end of the day, it's like there's so many people I want to tell stories about, and they all kind of belong to different genres because of whatever journey I want them to go on. So yeah.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
Film and Color people, anybody else have any questions? Bailey.
Okay, so if you could give advice to anyone in this meeting right now, as far as getting into the industry, what would it be?
From my perspective, it really is like applied to everything. And if you're a writer, I would say learn how to make time in your life to write, because I think we can get kind of caught up in like, oh, I'm gonna go to a cabin and then I'm gonna write my thing. And it's like, no, you're not. Like, you don't have any money to rent a cabin. So I think it's just important to like, because then it becomes not like this weird fantasy. It becomes just like part of your life, I think, which is so hard, especially like probably a lot of you guys are gonna like PA on something and that's like 12-hour days and it's really intense. And well, when people shoot here, I guess. I think that's really important. If you're a director and all you do is direct, I would say find a script, find a producer, and amongst your like community here, I think is like the first place to start. And also, if you're a director, like make a short. I'm sure Eliza said this too. Like make a short. Like I didn't really do them the way I wanted to, or as often as I wanted to, because it's like prohibitively expensive. So I understand that that's not always a possibility, but I think finding your community, and then like something that I did actually a few years ago, like 7 years ago, was a few friends of mine and I got together and we decided to like write and like shoot sketches. None of us were really that interested in comedy, but it felt like a way to just like make something. And they're all like, we've deleted them all from the internet. But it was just everyone from that group now is sort of like doing the thing that they actually wanted to be doing. And I think just like being in that space where you're creating something is really important. So I think I would say find your community, find your producer, your editor, or your director, your writer, and then apply for everything.
All right, so we have some questions from YouTube that I'm gonna go through. The first question is, what is one lesson you specifically learned this year that has influenced either your creative process or your approach to filmmaking?
A lesson. Oh, I mean, I learned this lesson from Jordan actually, because he seems pretty fearless, generally speaking, which I know he's not, obviously no one's fearless, but you know, so much of it really doesn't matter. Like when it comes to studio stuff, like there's all this like, because it is very fear-based, a lot of, I think, how decisions can get made in film, and like fear that you won't make money, fear that I won't be understood by like everyone on earth, like fear about like, this isn't the right thing, or fear about this being weird or whatever. And I think removing fear from the equation, however you can, is like really important. And it was really important for me in order to like finish the movie, but also to go on to the next thing and to make my own stuff. And so that's a huge lesson I learned, that like fear is a lot of people operate from fear. So that helps to contextualize like negative things that happen, and hopefully make it not have as much of an impact on you, but also like your own fear can hold you back. So just don't be afraid of anything. Because actually you don't have to be afraid of it. I think I learned, that's the big thing I learned.
Awesome. Okay, the next question is, where do you find the thrill to start your projects, and how do you start your creative process?
When I'm writing something, usually it's because I'm like daydreaming about something, or I see something, like, or if I'm in a museum and I see a painting and there's like a person in it, I'm like, I start imagining who that person is. I'm like, huh. Or, you know, I read a play and I'm like, I want to adapt this. Or like, I'm reading something or watching something and I'm like, oh, I wish it did this instead. So many places. And I usually start just by like writing stuff down. I have like 1,000 like, you know, documents just full of like, you know, different things, like, oh, like this is going to be like the movie about the girl who goes into the woods or whatever. And I just like have ideas about what that story's going to be like. Writing everything down, I think, is super important. Always having a notebook with you, I think, is really good. I mean, you can do it on your phone, but I think there's something about the phone that's not as like, it disappears, I think. And I think in a book, you just have it, this is the place where it is. So yeah, I think, and writing down scenes, even if it doesn't have a place yet, I think is super important. And that's how I sort of start to build things. And then I look at all these threads and I'm like, okay, can I start writing? And usually it's no. But I'm very outline based. So I always outline before I write anything. My outlining usually takes longer than my script writing, least for the first draft, and then I'm like editing for like years. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, awesome. Just a few more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any tips, technical or otherwise, for high school filmmakers currently looking at film schools and hoping for a career in the industry?
Oof, get a scholarship. I have so much debt from film school, and it's like not a fun mental burden. So I would say like really like try to get a scholarship if you can. If you go to NYU, you probably won't get one because they're cheap. But I think it's really that's like a big thing. And then I think working as much as you can. And like watching movies, obviously, but I assume everyone does that anyway if they're like interested in film. But I find really what's really helpful is like listening to filmmakers talk about filmmaking. So like the Team Deacons podcast I've been listening to, because I'm always just like so fascinated by other people's processes. Oh man, I'm trying to think what I wish I knew before. Oh, and also like you don't necessarily like if you're committed to spending money on higher education, which I did, and I don't regret it, but I would say like consider not doing film as your undergrad and maybe doing it for grad instead. But if you do go to film school for undergrad, do one that actually lets you make movies, and that's not just like theory, like that actually you're like holding a camera or telling someone who's holding the camera what to point the shoot. You know, like that's I think so important.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Another question. Sorry. What was the first? It says, what was the first time you got paid for something film related? You said what?
Like when in the like time or like age wise?
The first time you got paid for something film related. I think you meant to say when maybe. And what was it?
Oh, it was a script, I think, probably for this rich guy. It's just so random. He's the best, by the way. But actually, no, that's not even true. It was a documentary for another rich guy. He had a bunch of pictures and he was like, make this into a slideshow. My friends and I were like, or we can make a documentary. And so we convinced him to literally make a documentary and shoot in Brazil. I didn't end up going to Brazil with them, but like, because I think at that point I was doing the Screenwriters Lab. But yeah, that was probably the first, I guess, film related thing, which is pretty funny to think about.
That's awesome.
So just for the people who are from the public who are inside the Zoom room now, we can answer a couple questions since we're nearing our time in a few minutes. So if you have any questions, if you want to do a hand raise, if you know how to do that, or you can just unmute one at a time. Nobody has any questions? Oh, Nicole? Okay. I was like, this big room and y'all had no questions? Okay.
Oh, I still have a background on.
I literally, for a second, thought you were at the beach. I was like, oh my God, then I realized what was happening.
No, I think it's from Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh, so you're in the desert. I see. Okay. Yeah.
I was wondering if music plays a role in your filmmaking and how it plays a role. It does.
Yeah. Yeah, I will listen to music sometimes to get like ideas, like helps like imagine a scene or even like a trailer. Like I can listen to a song sometimes. I'm like, oh, I can see like all these moments in the film because I'm imagining it as a trailer, which is kind of a cool thing too. So that like hugely influences it. And then for me, music is so tied to character. So I always, whenever I think about score and like telling my composer what I want, I'm always thinking about like the character arcs and like how they each maybe have their own like theme and how they might intertwine at some point. And I really like making like the environment a part of the score. So like with Little Woods, we have a lot of like, you know, pump jacks and the sound of like weather vanes and fire inside of the score itself. So yeah, it's like hugely important. And then so is I think like not having score, like just knowing when do you need it and when you don't need it. I think it's super important. And also, I don't know, it's just like a really good tool. But yeah, music's, I love it. I think it's great. It's very influential.
Anybody else with a hand raised, thumbs up, emoji? Kiernan, if I'm saying that right. Yeah, there you go.
Hi. I was just wondering, do you have any advice for like maintaining your creative integrity as you like progress in the film industry?
Yeah. Yeah, well, my trajectory is pretty weird. Like, I finished my first film like 3 years ago, so I haven't really, it's gone pretty fast. I'm like, and besides my first movie, I haven't made anything that was fully mine. In the sense that like I write it, I direct it. It's like there's no IP attached. It's just like, and I think there's something that I really love and miss about that, which is like, at the end of the day, like it's your dream, it's your vision, and no one else can really tell you like how to do it differently, because it's yours. And I think just staying true to yourself, and also knowing, I think that like saying no to someone isn't going to kill them. Like a producer, like they're not going to fire you. Like, well, actually, that's not true. Obviously, people have gotten fired off of movies, but assuming you're all reasonable people, I feel like saying no is totally fine, and it's like important to know that. But doing like studio, like, IP movies, like a horror film and other things. Again, I think it's down to the pitch. It's like and they have to accept your vision, That's like the first step. And so like when I was pitching for Candyman, I was like, this is kind of exactly what I would do based on what you've given me. Now the difficulty is fighting for that every step of the way. But at the end of the day, it's like, I already told you. Were you listening? And also knowing that like the worst thing that can happen to you is not necessarily getting fired. That helps to just keep you going and like sticking to your guns. Because at the end of the day, like they hired you for your vision, for your integrity. They'll forget that, of course, but it's like, it's sometimes a fight, and that's just like a fight that's worth having. I think knowing what the stakes are is really important too, in terms of keeping your artistic integrity. They're higher for you, I guess is what I'm saying. The stakes are much higher for you than it is for like an exec who visited your set once and, watches dailies on his cell phone. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question though.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we might have room for one more question, if anybody has one.
I have a question if it's open back to the...
Yeah, everyone, yeah. You're our last question, then Milo.
Okay, I was just wondering, it's about Candyman. Without going into too many details, what's like the relationship between you and like your producers, like Jordan Peele? Like I know the director is God.
No, I'm not God.
Not well.
Not on this.
But it's. I just wonder like how much control, like someone like Jordan Peele might have over, like creative decisions compared to like the director.
That changed a lot throughout the course of the film, and Jordan was very deferential, and like, when I got calls that were like, you have to shoot this from an exec, he'd be like, she's not going to shoot anything she doesn't want to shoot. Which is, he has the power to protect filmmakers. But then, in the edit, he has final cut of the movie. So, it's just like a power balance. And also like for myself, like working under another director is tricky. And I think like we had to navigate like, okay, like our aesthetics are very different. We would never have made anything close to the same movie. So that's just like something you have to navigate as well. And also he's not the only producer on the movie. So it's like, it's just everyone has very strong opinions. Everyone wants the movie to be great. Everyone's going to push. You just have to make sure you're all pushing in the right direction. Otherwise you end up going nowhere. And I think that was like the process of making this movie. It's like, okay, are we all pushing in the same direction? Let's do that. And then when you do, it's great. And everything moves forward in the direction it should. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's basically how it went.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, of course.
Okay, guys. Well, we're at time. We just want to thank Nia again for coming and sharing all of
I also
her
should say, like, this is like all the advice I'm giving you is very specific to my experience and like what I know. And I've had a very like strange trajectory in the industry. So, take everything with a grain of salt.
Thank you so much, Nia, though. Like, all the advice was really great, and we really appreciate you coming and taking time out of your busy day
thank you.
to come and be with us. I guess, as we always do in Film and Color, we take a picture. Would you like to take a picture with us?
Sure. Like in here?
Yeah, like in our little Zoom room. So we're just going to pose real quick.
Nia, you don't look much older than our students. I'm confused.
Oh, I stopped aging because I sold my soul to the devil. Yeah, thank you, Eliza. You're so sweet. You look amazing, Eliza. I was gonna say, like, I mean, we can talk about this later.
Nice to.
Oh wait, did we take the picture, Yujara?
Yeah.
Oh, did we?
Oh no, we didn't. Okay, ready?
But if anyone wants to turn on their camera and smile for the picture, you don't have to. But if you want to, I want to give you guys a chance to come on.
Turn them on. It looks awkward.
Yeah. Just cheese. In 3, 2, 1, cheese. Awesome. Thank you.
Also, Nia, did you pick out like a color for your? Are you in your kitchen right now, or like?
Yeah.
Let's help her choose which one.
It's a big room, so.
Like the middle yellow.
Yeah, I was kind of feeling the middle yellow. I was looking at it the whole time.
Wow, yellow makes you go crazy though. Yellow rooms.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. That's no thanks. What about this one?
I was also looking at that one.
That one too. Does it have a little green in it?
It's green. Yeah. It's basically like a light green.
I'm into that one.
Yeah.
The interior designer says to do that one.
I say the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Oh, this one. Okay. Great. Perfect. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Nia.
So generous.
Of course.
You. Such wonderful advice. Very inspiring. And we're all excited to see you become like the most famous person in Hollywood next year.
Oh, please. I literally, if that ever happens, I'll just move to Tahiti or something. And
congratulations.
Thank you so much. And congrats to you, Eliza. Oh my God, this year, your movie. I mean, I can't even. It's crazy.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you for your kind words too about the films.
Of course, I love them.
Thank you.
Of course. Guys, good luck.
All right, thank you so much, and good night, everybody. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good job.
Thanks, Eliza. I don't know why.
We'll do a test next time. I don't know. Who knows?
No, I did a test last night and it was like literally on there. And then I was like, okay. And then it did the countdown. I was like, I'm very like, with it. Even when we were doing Facebook Live, when I had Natalie last time, Natalie was like, there's something like kind of wrong with it. So I don't know.
It's just like a delay or something. I don't really get it. Maybe we can ask for